What's up, guys? It's Jill. It's Monday. I think it's the 8th of December. I'm so bad at that. I should look before I start making these videos. Yeah, it's the 8th of December. Um and I don't know. I guess I was sitting here thinking about like where things are moving to and like what I'm gonna be doing in 2026. Like making a plan, I guess, for the year. And a lot of things, man. A lot of things moving and shaking around us, right? Like, they just voted against Hep B at birth, and like, I'm so excited about that because I'm not a fan of taxing infants at birth, especially, since Hep B is like so rare of a contraction, especially for kids. Really, it's like sexual fluids and blood. So if mom tests negative, unless it's in the household, there really isn't any reason for our kids to have that before they go to school. Um, but another interesting thing that's going to happen in January of 2026 is that the United States is going to exit the WHO. So that process was started last January, and I think a lot of people don't understand that because, we're so enmeshed with the UN and the World Health Organization. And I'm for that because a lot of the things that have been coming out of the WHO and the UN for the past couple of years are really dangerous timelines. But I'm also concerned as to where we're going to go individually as a nation because we are seeing a lot of freedoms being removed, especially for women. And we're seeing a lot of like weaponized religion, and we saw that with Charlie Kirk, right? A lot of, putting women back in the kitchen and back in the homes and flat on their back and subservient to men or dependent upon men, especially when they won't be able to get professional degrees. Now, you guys know that, I created a space for moms and kids. Just this past year, I manifested the downtown building that I had really been waiting on to be able to create groups like this. And I recently had befriended and added them on social media, a few local moms. And then we had an event for the parade, and I was standing and I was watching two toddlers. They were both about 16 months old, and they were putting little pom-poms on an ornament that we had made that was on the wall. It was like just a play activity where you could do colors and counting, really a lot of things you could have done with it. But I was watching them interact with one another. And when I took a picture, one of the moms said, "Do you want them to look at you?" And I said, "Absolutely not, because I want to put this picture on the internet." And the next words that fell out of my mouth were almost like a divine channel, because it was so profound that when I had finished speaking, it struck me, like the truth of it struck me, and I went, "Oh my goodness." So what I said was, this picture, if I were to put your children on my Facebook page, are going to put you and your children and their social following, okay, their trackable Google social following of 16-month-old children is going to become forever a part of their timeline. That they were here with Miss Jill, they were in this city, they were in this building at this time. And that is a very real reality. And I think that we're not thinking enough about that. I think that, we've sort of given over our power to social media, right? Because there is a lot of control and restraint that comes from not sharing our location and not sharing our most private memories and stories on social media. And to think that those things will be weaponized against us, but certainly weaponized against our children, it's almost inconceivable. But that's why there's so much truth in it, okay? We are headed to social credit. it will probably be another year or two before that really, really comes to the fore. But there is so much truth in it. Things that we're fighting about, vaccine debates, our social health, okay? And I've talked about this before, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Where is the line going to be drawn between the algorithms listening to everything that I'm saying and things like telehealth and mental health being virtual now? All of that is going to combine into one tracking that makes up really an online imprint of who you are and whether we want to or not. And that information is all being fed right to our government. And that sounds so wildly, conspiratory, I guess. But there are other countries right now where they are like shutting down people's bank accounts and they are fining people for things that they are saying on the internet. China recently locked down their social media influencers, and now speaking on things, maybe not so much what I'm speaking on right now, like social credit, but if I were to be up here touting like laws or the rescinding of those laws, yeah, I guess that's the word I want, or medical health information. Well, I was talking about the Hep B vaccine. Those things cannot be discussed in China right now by social media influencers without them being able to prove that they hold higher education degree in one of those fields that they're speaking on, or they can be fined, okay, like major fines. That is a limiting of freedom of speech. We have amendments right now in place that protect those things. But again, those things are shifting and changing. See, when we remove ourselves from things like the UN and the WHO, a problem with that is that there are like universal declarations of human rights, right? So when we start looking at limits of power and limits of speech, we're walking so many fine lines. And I don't say these things to scare you. I just want you to be aware. And I know that it sounds very far off, and I know that it sounds very far-fetched, but as we move from 2019 and the removal of religious exemptions through the COVID agenda, which was to push us all online, to this 5G chaos, right, where they rolled everything into a digital marketplace. It's like we've built it out, and you can see it coming, and you can see it coming when, the Four Corners of Cato has 5G constant monitoring now, okay? The Four Corners of Cato, guys. We got an ice cream stand and a pizza shop and a gas station and a liquor store. Like, that's it, okay? So this is very real, and it's coming very fast. And just the other day, it was released in New York State was going to be upping penalties and points penalties for typical traffic violations like texting or not wearing your seatbelt, at 2 points a pop. So they're going to start limiting access to places. Now, part of the 15-minute city agenda is to make sure that everyone really sort of stays put. And we've talked about that before. Like, what is confinement? If you want to go from here to, say, Syracuse to go to Destiny, God forbid malls should still exist by 2030. Are you going to be able to do that? And is your social credit score going to be high enough that you're able to leave the city and come back? It sounds dystopian, friends, but really it is dystopian, and it's why we're going to have to be aware right now. And I guess awareness is really the big key right now, because other than, watching laws that play out, and other than watching who we're voting for and what we're allowing, that's going to decide where we move ahead, right? So, am I trying to give these young moms a place to be? Yes, absolutely. And if you have questions about vaccines, if you have questions about, just even questioning those things, talk to me, okay? As a doula, as a mom, my kids are teenagers now. I had to go through all of that, and there are a lot of questions. And one thing that frightens me is when people don't have questions, when people just blindly follow along. Because we are less than 100 years, okay, from first vaccinations. Less than 100 years, guys. We're talking 1940s. We're less than 250 years down this road of medicalization. We're less than 100 years into this mental health. Right around 100 years with addiction recovery. And that model has changed significantly. And many, many people who have studied addiction recovery for a long time will tell you that the system is not beneficial. And a lot of people in this town that were in positions when those things were really big in like the 60s, 70s, 80s are not in those positions anymore. The director for the county, director of CHIT, those people have since departed within the last like 5 years. We are walking into very strange times as a human collective, okay? Not just in our small town and not just the new moms, but like as a human collective, things are shifting and changing, and it may not be for the best interest of all of us. It may very well be for a privatized wealth agenda, and that is a very scary thing. But there are more of us than there are of them. So I'm not telling you which way to go right now, but I will say that where you can build community, where you can have real open conversations, where you are still free to think, those are spaces that you need to be in right now, okay? And to the two moms who had recently friended me and come around and then disappeared, my heart is with you. I know that you are doing the best for your family and for yourself, and I applaud you for that. And, if I frighten you or if you think that the things that I'm saying are untrue, then certainly, I hope that you do find community wherever it is that you seek it. But know that I am here and the space is here and there are resources here, and whether or not we agree doesn't mean that, your kids are all going to go to school together. That is okay. They are the next generation that is coming up. They are going to live and breathe and work and go to the gas station and have kids together. Okay. So be kind to one another, be open with one another, and question everything, you guys. Question everything, okay? I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. See ya.